Welcome back to Ladies First. Well, one of the biggest questions on everyone's mind during this COVID-19 outbreak are what are the right steps to take when it comes to investing?
And joining us through Skype is financial expert and friend to this goal, Teri Ijeoma, to talk to us again about making smart investments. Teri, thank you so much for joining us. Now, here's a great question, because this is a follow-up question to what I said last time. For more seasoned individuals like ourselves, we have our retirements and stock portfolio. What is the best thing? What do we do with them as far as allocations? Or do we just, last week you said, Jane and Laverne, hold tight. So that's what we did. What do we do this week?
So I think I'm still giving the advice of hold tight if you have a 401k or retirement. We've already come down 30% from our highs a couple weeks ago. And yes, we could go a little lower, but at this point you would be getting out at the lows and the market may turn around and you would be out of the market. So if you're looking at retirement, then I do want you to just hang tight. I actually do think that we'll come out of this pretty quickly. You've heard on the stock market, they've been talking about a U-shaped recovery or a V-shaped recovery. A V-shaped recovery would mean that we'll pop back up right away. We were at our all-time highs 3 weeks ago, so we would pop right back up. I don't necessarily think it'll be a V-shape, but I could see us getting back to where we were by the end of the year. So I wouldn't want you to take your money out now because you're scared and then see that it would have been okay by the end of the year. So hang tight if you're in your retirement.
Okay, we're still hanging tight.
Yes, I have some different advice, though, if you want to make some money real quick while all of this is going on, though.
I want to hear that. We all want to make some money really quick. What have you got?
So right now we've come down 30% from all-time highs just a few weeks ago. And there are some companies that were at their 52-week highs just a few weeks ago. And so what I want people to start looking at is, and I'm not going to tell you exact companies because I don't want to, be your financial advisor, but I will tell you some advice on how to pick good companies now. Okay. One of them is go to Yahoo Finance or CNBC channel and look at stocks that were at their 52-week highs just a few weeks ago. And if you have trouble with that, like I said, you can Google it. What stocks were at their 52-week highs? Some of the companies on that list would have been Amazon was at its 52-week high, Visa, PayPal. Well, was it PayPal? Yeah, I think so. PayPal was on there at their 52-week high. Some really great companies were at their all-time highs. Look for those. They've come down 30%. You'll get a discount right now, but you know that they're really healthy companies. Another set of companies you could look for are, what are some companies that recently hit their lows from December 2018? In December 2018, we had pulled back 20% from the highs back then, and now we have several really good companies that are hitting those levels. So, for example, Visa just hit that level. AutoZone came down and hit that level. There's a couple of really great staple companies that will be just fine after all of the coronavirus. But look for those two signals. Those are some good companies to get invested in. And I want you to stay away from airline companies and travel companies because I think those are a little broken right now. It'll take them a long time to come back, but make sure you're getting into companies that have nothing to do with Corona, but are good companies that have come down in price.
This is great advice.
It sure is, Teri. So what I'm curious about is a lot of people in the financial industry have talked about the fact that, as you're saying, it's a good idea to buy stocks when they're low, but a lot of huge companies have bought back their stocks. And a lot of, really rich people, millionaires and billionaires, have been buying up tons of stock. How do you compete with them when they've already got great deals? First of all, some of them had inside information. First of all, they have the liquidity to do it. How do you compete with that when these huge companies are buying back their own stocks?
So the key is not to compete with them, to go with them. So when I'm looking at charts, I'm looking at where the big banks are buying and where the big banks are selling. You can actually see that in formations on a candlestick chart. And then our goal is actually to buy with them. And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions, that we can't make money as the small guy because these big banks have all the money. But the key is when they are buying their 100,000 share orders, we want to buy at the same price. For example, today I was able to make a six-figure. Like I made over $100,000 today trading, but I
Oh,
traded
wow.
bowling.
Well, okay, wait a
Yeah.
minute, wait a minute. We need to
Slow
know
down.
your secrets.
Slow down, Teri. This is the good stuff. You made $100,000 today?
I did. It actually was $111,000.
All these
Wow.
Today was
people
my
are
first six-figure
struggling,
day.
losing jobs. How did you do? We want to hear the details.
So I had two big trades going on. One was I was invested in Zoom, and Zoom is one of those companies that is doing really
Oh,
well
yes,
during
Zoom.
yes. See, some people think that because the market is falling that everything is doing bad, but it's not. There's definitely some bright spots in the market that are doing extremely well during this season. For example, Zoom, everybody has to still be on calls. Telehealth is huge. Work,
Right.
Work is the ticker symbol, but it's actually the company Slack right now. You got to figure out a different way to communicate with your staff. You need Slack. So there's a lot of companies that are doing really well right now. So I invested in one of those. And so Zoom was part of my six-figure day. And then the other side of that is there's some companies right now that have come down to extremely low prices, but they're the best in their business. And one of those for me is Boeing. Boeing had come down to $90. And guys, like Boeing a few months ago was at $400, you know? So now to see it at
You just told us don't
$90.
do airline stocks, though, or don't do air industry.
You're so right. You're so right. And this is the one exception. That's why I'm like, talk to your financial advisor
You
or
are
join
my
my
financial
course.
advisor now, Teri, because this is good stuff.
All right, can I ask you one last question? One of the things
Sure.
that I think our viewers would also like to know is how much cash do you recommend that we have on hand? You know, I still see people going to the bank to pick up, extra cash. Is it still okay to have like $50 in your wallet, or do we need to have more than that?
I do think, wait, real quick, let me just explain why I did Boeing, because I feel like someone's going to be like, but she didn't finish.
Yeah.
So the reason why I did that one is because I also know that the government is looking at a stimulus package right now, and one of the big companies they're considering bailing out is Boeing. So when it came down to its lows of lows from like the years, this is the lowest it's been in years, and then we know that the stimulus is coming in. That's one of those, whatever the banks are doing, go with it. Big money people are buying Boeing right now, so we buy Boeing with them. So that's why I was in Boeing and did really well with them.
How much money
today.
did you put into Boeing?
So I actually, it gets complicated. I sold options, which means they were paying me to buy the stock. And so they paid me $200,000 to buy the stock. And then I went and bought it back today for $100,000 and got to keep the difference. That's called selling options. So that's kind of what I was doing
Do you do day
today.
trading? Are you doing
I
day
do.
trading? Okay, that's what it is. I
Yeah.
think we need to clarify that to people, that what Teri's doing is day trading, which is not for the faint of heart, and you have to have a pool of money there. So I just want to make that clear,
Yeah.
which is different than what Jane talks about, which is her retirement and saving for the future money that she's built up through working. So I
Correct.
love the fact that you're doing day trading. It's not for everybody, though. You make it sound simple, but you're right. You need a financial advisor, because the payment option there that you're talking about, where you got paid back, is a little bit more complicated for the average person.
Very complicated.
But it tells us how
Yeah.
smart you are, Teri. So I'm glad to hear that that
And
you're
I do
making it
teach
work.
people how to do it. So like my students made money today too. So it's not very hard. It's just something people need to learn more about. So I'd say it like that. And then with the how much money do you need to have on hand? I don't want to forget your question. I personally think right now you want to have at least 1 to 3 times your bill amount in cash. And I do believe the banks are going to have liquidity, so we don't have to be afraid that they don't have money. But what I will say is right now, we're not sure if the banks will be open. They've said that banking is an essential part of is like an essential work function. So right now, when everyone's on lockdown, the banks should still be open. But if this were to escalate and we couldn't have people come to work in the bank and the bank was closed and you needed cash, you may not get it. So that's the only reason why you might want to have a little cash on hand. But the Fed has said that they are reassuring the banks we should have liquidity. It shouldn't be a issue where you're afraid that they won't have enough money to pull your cash out or that something will happen to your bank account. It should be fine. But it's always nice to have a little cash on hand right now.
Well, thank you so much for this information today. You have really been a wonderful instructor for us in terms of giving us a big picture as far as money is concerned and the use of it and the investments. And so, you know, we're going to be looking to talk to you in multiple meetings, not just today, but certainly in the future. You're our new financial guru.
Good. I would love to talk to you guys more about day and swing trading. It's really, really exciting, and I think it's something more of us should know about.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.